Hey everybody, welcome back to another day in the shop with Edla, our Expedicion de las Americas CJ-7. I'm Chris Collard, and this is Gone Jeepin', now proudly a member of the 1941 media group. Get it? 1941, Gone Jeepin'. So last episode, we did a walk around under Edla, just checked out the myriad of stuff that we got to do. In this episode, we're going to be checking the differential fluid and ring and pinion gears, determining what the ring and pinion ratio is, and pulling the old crusty suspension off. Hope you can stick around. It's going to be fun.
And today we are checking out the differentials. If you remember, I mean, pretty much we're gonna have to go through everything, but before I start stripping things down, I wanted to make sure I know what the ring and pinion ratio. It should be a 354. It's an AMC 20. Had a 8.3/4 inch ring gear, so massive ring gear. Really, good sized ring gear for the vehicle and the weight. They used this axle and whole bunch of different vehicles. The weakness on it was the smaller axle tubes. It's got a 29 spline axle in the back, and the tubes being, welded into the, or kind of spot welded into the differential, or slipped in and spot welded, had a tendency to spin, especially if you've got a true locking differential in the back, or you put a V8 in it, had extra horsepower. So that's why a lot of people were upgrading to like a Dana 44 when they became available for the CJ. Actually, I started putting them on the CJ, I think, in 1984. But this is a 20. We're just gonna pull off the diff cover, count the gears, and figure out what the ratio is. Should have a track lock in there. That was what came from this vehicle from the factory. Gonna do the same thing to the front. Just analyze all the parts we need before we start ordering stuff. And if I get distracted, it's just because I'm just looking up at the undercarriage here and all the other stuff I gotta do. But this is gonna be a fun project, so stick around. Right, so once you have the bolts off, I always leave one at the top. I loosen it, but took them all off but one, because this differential doesn't have a drain plug like some. You just basically pull this cap off, and I want to see what this stuff looks like. So rather than just dumping it into the oil drain, I'm going to get a pan to put it in. All right, so collecting all this oil hopefully will give me a little bit better insight into the condition of the internals. Kind of hopefully carefully peel this thing off of here. Want to be careful with the edges on this thing, because this is ultimately your seal, the outside of the diff cover. So you don't want to start bending it up too much. All right, now we're getting loose. So now I'm going to put that tray up nice and close. So one of the things I'm looking at here is that it's nice and clear. If it's looking like it's coming out like dirty chocolate milk, it means that you probably got water in the differential. All right, with all the bolts out, we're gonna pull this guy off carefully. So what I want to look at is, again, quality of the oil. We think it was serviced. So they did use the cork gasket around the side, and need a new one of those because obviously it fell apart when I was taking it out. And we had a liberal, which I'm a big fan of, RVT or silicone. Had a liberal dose of silicone in there, so it wasn't leaking. That's nice. But what I'm looking at is, when we got a dent, you can see this dent on the side from backing into a rock or something. But how clean the oil is, if you can see any metal flakes in it, we can test that as we get a magnet, drag it around the oil, and we'll find out what's in it. These are great, little pencil magnet, and drag it around the bottom of the diff here. So I'm gonna drop the magnet into the pan of oil we just took out. Just drag it around there, do a little fishing. Hopefully we don't catch anything. So first inspection, there's a couple little small specks on there, little flakes, but nothing serious. If we look back in here, we've got the spider gears. Here we got two sets of spider gears. They're at 90-degree angles to each other. I'll turn the axle here a little bit. You can see they roll in opposite directions, like that. So there's a spline inside of the spider gear that is attached to the axle, and then they roll and turn the upper set of spider gears. Now if we look back here a little bit deeper in this behind the spider gear on the driver's side, you can see there's a little clutch pack in there. That's part of your limited slip differential. So it's got a set of discs in there, and they rub against each other and they create flat friction. There's one inside the disc pack that is semi-conical, so it's not exactly flat, and it induces pressure on the pack. One tire bends fast to the other. The idea is that it puts a load on these discs, which lock together, and it's semi-locked together. So that's what that looks. So next we're gonna mark this, gonna clean it up, mark one of these teeth, count the pinion gear teeth, and then count the ring gear teeth, and we will identify our ring and pinion ratio. Okay, so the reason I'm cleaning this is because I want to put a Sharpie mark on it. Yep. The other thing I'm going to look at on the teeth is any types of fractures. So I'm going to rotate it around and inspect all of the teeth and the pinion gear. Make sure that it doesn't have any chunks taken out of it or little spiral stress fractures that they could acquire when, you know, something big load's been put on them. Tires up in the air and it comes down on a rock, and both of the axles, tires hit the granite at the same time, or somebody drops the clutch on the street. That's called a shock load. All right, now that it's clean, to determine the differential gear ratio, I like to put a little mark. Find a tooth, any tooth, just pick one. This one happens to have a little kind of a machining mark on it, I guess. That'll be my number one tooth. Then I want to count every 5 teeth and put another mark. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I came around all the way up until I came to find my original tooth that I marked, which was tooth 0. And then down here I've got Roman numeral 8, which would actually be 7 sets of 5 teeth. So 7 times 5 is 35. Start counting up from my last mark at the Roman numeral 8. I've got 36, 37, 38, 39. Oh, did that backwards. Yeah, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, and 41 teeth. Now we're going to figure out how many we got on the pinion gear. Do basically the same thing. I'm going to come in here and put a little mark on it, turn it, and slowly, because when you're looking inside that pinion gear, you can't really see it. So I'm going to mark it really well, turn it, and then put a little tap as I go and then count in my head every 2 teeth. So we put our marks, came around, and we got 10 teeth on the pinion gear. So divide 41, the number of teeth on the ring gear by the number of teeth on the pinion gear, and comes out to 4.1. So they would call that a 410 or 4.10 gear ratio. All right, got the shock mounting bracket off the bottom of the axle. Got the U-bolts out. One thing I should probably talk about. Let's talk about U-bolts. So they're super tough. I mean, you know, they hold your axle and they hold, basically the whole vehicle kind of together. But they will stretch. And these are quite old. They've probably been on here, like I said, decades. The threads look fine. The bottoms are beat up because they were drug across rocks and whatnot. But at this point, and good idea just to swap your U-bolts out. Especially when you do any work on it, got them all apart, you might as well put new ones in. All that stuff's off. I'm just going to support the axle here. You can see it's a spring under axle design. All of the original Jeeps were. And hopefully I can just take a little tension off the load off the spring. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the back of the shackle off, and then we will drop the spring. The new ones are, I don't know what these were. I'm guessing maybe they were Ranchos. And back in the day it had Rancho shocks on it, always had Rancho shocks on it. And we do have a new set of Rancho shocks. Thanks, Rancho, for that. You guys are awesome. And but unfortunately, Rancho doesn't make the springs anymore. But Superlift, great product, great company. They've been around. They're period correct, And so we called up the guys at Superlift, and they had, they still manufacture the CJ springs. So that's what's going on. So if you remember, when we started this thing, I went around and hit everything with WD-40, just trying to get a little penetrating oil in there, loosen it up. But boy, everything's just so crusty and dusty. It took a bit just to break this loose, and I'm backing it with the nut is still on there so you don't damage the threads. I have to get a bigger hammer. So at this point, I want to double check, make sure that axle is still secure, because for some strange reason, if this pin were to just like to pop out, yeah, this whole thing's going to come down. The spring will come down, it'll pivot on the front. So I've got the bolt that's flush with the edge of the shackle, and I'm going to switch to a driver pin, something like that. All right, so I can feel that it's just about ready to drop. Work on taking this out by hand the rest of the way. There we go. So we're gonna try to take that front pin out, and we'll have the springs out. I'm just gonna leave the old Ranchos on here. Really like the nostalgia of those guys. Not sure. Oh, they worked hard, but yeah, they're about shot. All right, we just realized that this pin is really loose, and it actually sliding all the way out. Look at that. Now we just got friction that's holding that friction. Let's give it a little wobble here, back and forth, gently, and it drops out. All right.
All right, guys, that's a wrap for today. Tomorrow we're going to be installing a set of new Superlift springs and measuring for drive shafts from Tom Wood's Custom Drive Lines. See you next time.